Good morning, Nick.
Hey, morning.
Have you gotten used to being called chef yet?
I have. I don't like it though.
Why?
It's too serious.
But you are a serious guy. Like you're quite like grounded and like when I found out that you were 31, right?
Yeah.
I was quite surprised because I was like the way he carries himself is so like quite serious and stuff.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I want to be taken seriously.
Okay.
Yeah, not too seriously, but
Yeah.
I'm quite. I'm a quiet guy. I like to listen and think, and I don't talk too much.
Have you always been like that?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you as a child would have been quite like pensive and like thinking more than playing around.
A little bit of both, actually. A little bit out there.
Okay.
But more to myself.
Where were you born?
I was born in Pretoria.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And how long did you live there, or your whole life?
Basically, I moved to Cape Town in 2010.
Okay.
No, 2011.
How old were you then?
Maths. 31.
So 21.
Was
that 10 years ago?
No, I was 19,
Okay.
20, 19
Yeah.
or 20, something like that. Yeah.
What sparked the move?
I came to chef school. I came to Silwood. Yeah.
Cool. And how was that?
Interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something I always wanted to do. So I went in with some like the expectations of like this is sort of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Met a lot of interesting, good people.
Nice.
You know, it's quite important in this industry to network. And yeah, the experience of it was good.
Okay, so not interesting bad. When you said it was an interesting time, I was like, okay.
I mean, I didn't love it. Let's put it that way.
Okay, why?
Like the chef of the chefiness was like a little bit much for me.
Okay.
If I'm going to be honest with you.
In what sense? Like in terms of like needing to have the militant sort of like hierarchy and stuff?
Yeah, like the macho man.
Yeah.
You will work 16 hours a day thing was still quite in place then. And I didn't love it.
Okay. Do you think that cooking schools attract those kind of people who naturally fit into that, or should it be something that changes over time because they're different personalities and it
should change over time.
Yeah.
It should definitely change over time. I think there's a grounding that you need if you do want to work in kitchens and stuff, and I think that's very important. And that's like what you can take out of it, but I think, and I hope that I don't know, but I hope that they are changing.
Yeah.
You know, the other things that you get out of going to chef school with the times.
When you were there, do you already know that you wouldn't necessarily want to work at like a fine dining kind of kitchen?
I think it took me about a year and a half to probably realize that.
Okay.
I did like a few blocks in those kitchens, and I mean, you're very much in the moment when you're there, and you either love it or you hate it. And I didn't love it, but I liked the habitual nature of it, and like the learnings from it. And I guess it's up to the person to take out of those experiences like the best things that you can, and then you know, throw away the rest and put your sort of touch on everything else.
Where did you do those blocks? Which restaurants?
I was at La Colombe.
Okay.
Back in Ouzeri.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of time at Test
Under
Kitchen.
Frank or Luke?
No, Scott and James.
Scott. Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah. So that's the same guys that are there at the moment.
Yeah.
A little bit of time at Test Kitchen.
So you're not that old.
No, no, not Frank old. No. Was it Greenhouse?
Yeah.
Which was cool under Pete.
Cool.
And
which was better for you?
Difficult. I don't know. I enjoyed Greenhouse. I think.
You preferred the food there or the working style?
I think the working style, but also the team was great.
Okay.
I think like a friend of mine was there, so I think I had good friends there at the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 blocks you did, and after that you were like,
I mean, I did it.
No,
there was a few more. Yeah,
Okay.
there was a few more. And I had like my father passed away when I was at Test Kitchen. I was there for a week, and it happened, and I think that shaped where I would go a lot.
Why?
It was the experience after that happened. and how I was treated and stuff. Not treated, but like I think just my personal experience and how
everything was managed.
How everything was managed, and maybe at the time I thought it was how I was treated. After that happened, it was really like it was tough, and it definitely sort of made me who I am today and made me take the path I took to getting here.
So that's a very pivotal moment. So I think can you unpack it a little bit? Without getting to
I mean,
just because it's such a pivotal moment.
Yeah, I think after it happened, I went back and sort of what you expect, like
a sense of like empathy.
Yeah, the sense of empathy and like vulnerability that you're obviously going to have as a 21-year-old or whatever I was that's just lost their father. Wasn't there, and I think the way it was sort of handled, I made the decision like that's not the environment that I want to be in. But I think more importantly for where I am now, it was like when I get to that stage, that's not how I'm going to treat people, or it's like I'm not gonna, that's not what I want to do.
So then for you found that the nature of, I don't know, how sort of like cooking schools prepare people to survive in those serious like higher end kitchens required people to slightly be disconnected in terms of the emotional side of things.
I would say that.
And you felt that, well, actually, if we're going to work together for 16 hours a day, we need to be each other's support structure. And
there needs to be more empathy and like more openness to vulnerability. Because I think nowadays it's a bit better. Like there's a lot more conversations taking around, leaders and people in power being more vulnerable towards their staff. I think that there is more conversation about that happening now, where that's seen as like a better way to like build trust and build like a better structure.
Sure. Okay. I mean, thank you for sharing that, because it's quite like a thing to notice that lately a lot of the chefs that you speak to, they do actually, talk about, vulnerability as being an important thing. The last sort of interview I did with Chef Luke Del Roberts, he was talking about how he's a huge advocate for therapy, which means like all of sort of like the old school, not old in a bad way, but like basically all the stalwarts, as it were, have now kind of like come to a point of realizing that like emotions are not actually a bad thing. Being vulnerable is no longer a bad thing. The whole militant thing is probably only as good as keeping the order in the kitchen so that things work, but not necessarily to disconnect the emotional side of things. So I guess you would find that maybe things are changing, but it's just a pity that it's taken this long. Because you weren't 21 yesterday. So it needed to have been addressed a lot sooner.
Yeah, I did, but it's happening, so that's important.
Cool, awesome. All right, and then after Silwood and doing the blogs and then realizing, cool, you do not want to be in an environment where there isn't enough focus on the human part of it. You actually just, want to create a more, communal environment. What did you do after that?
So obviously, during that difficult time, I sort of made the decision that I didn't really want to work in kitchens. And it set me back, obviously, because I closed off completely to going and working and getting that experience. I sort of went out on my own and I did some private chefing. I looked at sort of opportunities to do pop-ups, sort of all with the thought in mind that I wanted to bring forth like my Greek heritage and my Cypriot heritage. Because during my final year at Silwood, it was during our exam, which you do at the end of your third year. That's what I did. I cooked sort of my interpretation then of like more modern Greek Cypriot food.
Was that a risk, or was that something that was quite normal to do at the time?
I think it was quite normal.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was like like they like in the environment that you are, like the creativity was like cool, like go and do it.
See, in my mind, I thought that if you were doing your final year exam, people expected you to be doing foams and like sabayons and spheres.
Yeah,
and
I mean there
and
was
smears.
There was spheres and there was smears. Unfortunately.
Okay, good. Okay, well, so there was still that kind of, because I was thinking if you're doing like Greek food, you know, you're not going to present like a plate full of ouzo and be like, cool, there you go, you know, grade me. So I was trying to think like, was that a common thing for people to start looking at maybe like modern comfort food, or did you still need to do foams and?
Yeah, I mean, look, I hadn't reached where I am now in terms of like my interpretation of my food. So there was spheres. I did a green olive sphere. And there was, I don't know, there might have been a foam or something. Definitely some jellies.
But how please describe me one of the dishes. Like I want to describe like Greek food done in a nouvelle cuisine kind of way. How would you do that?
Let me try and think. I did an Easter egg. So like in Greek Easter, we crack the red eggs when we break fast.
Are
like we dye eggs red.
Okay.
So I did my dessert
because they're bloody, or why are they red?
They're just like just part of the tradition of Greek Easter, yeah. Cool. And my dessert was basically like I think it was it white chocolate, or it was like some sort of chocolate like egg dome sphere thing that I did. Yeah. And the inside I did like a honey gel that was like the egg yolk, and then I nestled it in like a gateifi basket, and then I did like some, I don't know what I did, coffee and figs or something around it, and then like you cracked this egg, and then like the honey gel thing like broke in the middle.
Cool. Nice.
So like that's what I was doing then, because that's that's what we were around. You know, that's the food that we were cooking.
Yeah. What year is this?
2012, I think.
Oh, no, that was the time for it.
That was the time.
Yeah.
That's the time for the.
If you weren't smearing, you weren't.
You weren't taken seriously. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then after that, then what was the first thing you sort of did when you started like doing your own thing and deciding, cool, you're not going to go into the kitchen, because now you have this degree, you come from a reputable school, but you've decided that you don't want to go to the traditional sort of restaurant, which usually set you up for your trajectory in your career. Then you were starting with freelance. Do you move back to Joburg to start out your own thing? Well, what happened?
No, I stayed in Cape Town.
Okay.
And I actually planned to go into the yachts, which also was a very common thing then.
Cool.
I did.
I think it's back now again.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it's back. I did all the courses and everything, and then sort of changed my mind.
Why?
It wasn't
You're
for
like,
me.
no, too much money. Not for me.
Yeah, no, too much money. It wasn't for me. Like I just didn't see myself being the kind of person to like live on a yacht in a small environment with like very few people. So then I just did private chefing, did some work like that, and started looking for opportunities to do pop-ups, and found a space on Church Street in Burkhardt, where that sort of pop-up culture was happening.
Yeah, which is when I met you.
Yeah,
at SPASIE.
Yeah.
Cool. And so like, how did that come about, and what did you actually find from it? Because I find everyone that I've met now since you've opened your new restaurant, Ouzeri. Yeah. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Ouzeri, yeah.
Cool. They all reference that time when they used to go there and like eat your food back then, and sort of like that's what people sort of like, I don't know, were technically introduced to you formally. And so like, tell me about that, because I'm sure it was a pivotal moment in your life. Yeah,
I mean it was interesting. It was like just like a big sort of creative space, I guess.
With freedom.
Yeah, exactly, with freedom, and you could just sort of do anything, and there wasn't much pressure or much expectation on sort of what you did there.
Okay.
And
just feed the people, don't poison them.
Yeah,
give them a good time.
Exactly. It was very much like that, like no recipe costings and none of that sort of like confiding sort of thing.
Cool.
So I think it was good, but at the same time it was also just there wasn't maybe enough pressure.
Okay.
So it was fun and it was good. Maybe I think I did it for about a year and a half, and then after that it sort of fizzled out, I think, because there wasn't enough expectation on where we were going and what we were going to do with it.
Okay. And then after that, what did you do?
After that, going back here.
This is, so now after you'd done SPASIE, this is still before you moved to Dubai.
Okay, so after that I met up with Johnny Paps from Old and Union Space Beer Garden, Vaness and Beer Garden, and he wanted to do sort of change the old courtyard at where Veines was, and we sort of went about changing that into a little Greek space. Again, it was sort of the same. It felt like the same. No pressure, no expectations of SPASIE, but a little bit more ramped up because we were sort of more in the public eye. And that's sort of where I started, I guess, engaging more with like trying to present Greek food in a different way. And yeah, it was also interesting time. But again, just not enough.
You didn't feel like it was pushing you to where your food could get to a point where it's revered.
Exactly.
So was it because you were, I don't know, most of what you were cooking, it was you looking back into your heritage rather than you trying to push it forward into what you want it to be?
Yeah, I think definitely a bit of that, and also just because of the space that we were in, there was only a certain sort of, like, there was a limit on what we could do.
You needed to throw a leg in the fire and let it just like roast for a few hours and then pull it apart and serve it.
Exactly.
Which is beautiful food.
Yeah, and also I think in that space particularly it was Ann Union. And then it was Veines and Beer Garden, and it was like an expectation of what that space was, and I think it was super difficult to change people's views on what to come there to expect. Like they had like the burgers and stuff like that, and like as soon as you take that off the menu, they used to get the old people that not old people,
like the old clients.
Like the old clientele that used to come there and
they're like, where's my beer and my brewery roll?
Exactly, and you're like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore.
Okay. So just talking briefly, like you since the start have seemed very, I don't know, adept to make sure that your heritage always sort of like seeps into the food that you're cooking. Why was that? Like, because I mean, you were born in South Africa, so why were you so attached to your culture and your heritage and your background?
I was brought up by my grandparents. Spent a lot of time with them in their house and eating the food that they brought from Cyprus when they moved here. I've always been a little bit of like a history buff, and I think that's also a big reason. But they moved here after the occupation in Cyprus, and when, like a lot of Cypriots that moved here after that, like they basically brought their lives to South Africa. From like the seedlings that they brought to plant here, like the vegetables that they grew, like the flowers and the plants that were in the garden. They just wanted, I think, to recreate their home. Or a sense
of comfort.
Exactly. It was like a sense of comfort. And with that, like obviously the food was the same. So they just carried on like cooking the food that they would cook there. And I think a little bit of me it's part of that, it's like I wanted that to carry on.
Were your parents born there or here? Here. Okay, cool. All right. And now a little bit of a history lesson. What's the difference between like the Greek or the Cypriot culture? Because for most people, they just assume that like Cyprus is another island of the many thousand islands of Greece, but actually it's its own independent country. So tell us about that. What are the differences? What do we take for granted and just think, and paint it with the same brush? I mean, Cyprus culture it's the same as Greek culture, because it's more like the religion is the same. That's where the similarity is. They're both Greek Orthodox and the religion is the same, but like culturally they are a little bit different, but not a lot. The language is different.
The language is the same. The language is the same. The dialect is different. The Cypriot they'll kill me, but the Cypriot dialect is a little bit like rougher than like the Greek the Greek dialect.
Actually, no, it's funny you say that, because I think someone was trying to explain to me that they got lost in Greece. They were in Athens, and they were speaking Cypriot or Cyprus Greek.
Cypriot Greek.
And they got lost. There's something about like he was saying Isha. And I don't know what does that mean?
Like go like straight.
And but for some reason it was the same word, but because of the dialect, it was just not understandable to the Greek driver. And it turns out that a person from Cyprus would be able to understand a Greek person, because in schools you are taught High Greek, as it were, and High Greek would be Greece Greek. And the vice versa is not true, because yours is seen as some form of slang. Very much. My cousins, my uncle sort of, he laughs about it, but he doesn't like it when they talk in the Cypriot dialect, because again at school they taught like Greek. Nice. And so for you, which one do you relate to more? Do you feel like a Greek.
More
person.
Cypriot. I definitely more Cypriot. My family.
How do you
lives
deal
there.
with South Africans always calling you Greek then? Like
You-
everything I read written about you, it's like Greek chef.
Yeah, you correct them like a few times, then after that you just
Yeah, it's just like, well,
it's fine.
it's press.
Yeah, it's fine.
Cool, nice. So nowadays, you're basically seen as one of the youngest chefs that own their own restaurant. What does that feel like for you? Like, do you feel like it's the novelty is worthwhile, or do you think that more people should actually be able to have their restaurants if it's their dream?
I think the novelty is there, and yeah, I do think it should be something that's more accessible to more people that have a dream of having their own space. I think it's like the feeling of knowing that you can like showcase like your passion and your whatever it is that you want to. In my case, it's like my heritage and my like make my family proud for like, you know, bringing it forward. I think obviously it should be accessible to more people.
And your family like quite like vocal about how proud they are of you?
Yeah, definitely. I think like like my grandparents obviously really happy about it.
And your grandparents approve of your food?
Yeah, I hope so.
Because it's quite a modern take on some of the things. Some of it is less, you know, heavy or less rich and stuff. Do they still approve? Like,
yeah, no, they do. They do. Yeah.
So after, you know, doing quite well, having pop-ups and having your own thing, and then you did a stint in Dubai as well, why were you so adamant to have your own space? Catch us next week for another episode of Breaking Eggs with Seth Shezi. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave us a review. We would love to hear from you. Until then, let's break.